I have finished my stack of cards that I've been working on. Going through different samples with the workshop I did with all the girls in the Magpie Club. So I'm going to try to show each one of them. We did envelopes and lined the inside of them. Some of them we put stencil work on the outside. I leave the strings on mine. This one's got a little Christmas tree with the embossing powders. And you use a heat gun on it so then the glitter doesn't go anywhere. And these are scrap tissues we put on the inside to cover up the sewing around the outside of it. Okay, let me get flipping through these. This one has a little bit of shadowing on the outside of the envelope. A spray oxide background and stenciled the tree. In this one I just outlined. And when I did you can see the nice glitter on it. I put tape here so the moon would be white. And this is a vintage shawl that was given to me. Supposedly Joan Baez shawl. And so it was so dry rotted, it really comes apart real easy. So I just use it as a inside of the envelope. Another tree. And that's a stencil. And this one has a little pocket with a dragonfly on the inside. I really like this one. I put the stencil on the outside of the envelope. And it is a spray oxide background. And then when you do the stencil, you brush on these ink pads like this type of stuff with these really little fine brushes. And then I did embossing powder here in gold, Princess Gold I think it's called, and a couple layers of cardstock behind it. Inside I put 2 pockets and the tissue here, and then some tags. So you can write greetings on there, on the tags, or use them on a package. Another one of the stencils. Now there's a difference between this one and this one. This one, the tree is your brush on oxide ink, and the turquoise is the background that was sprayed first. On this one, the spray oxide is the background in this lighter color, and so the tree stencil is the reverse. So when you put it on here and you brush it with the ink, you're actually getting this brown in the background now. I'm not sure what they call it, but it's the opposite. And the inside. And this one I just used a color book page and folded into a pocket, and then colored the colors to match the envelope. Another tree. The brown is the background spray oxide, and then I've got splattered white paint and gold embossing powder. And the whole inside I covered with tissue. And that's a recycled tissue where I've been using these piles of tissue just to clean off my stamps, or have it in the background when I'm spraying so it doesn't get on my desk. And then once I get a little stack of different colors, I stamp on top of it and then use it in other areas. And these were upcycled manila envelopes. I have a bunch of them that somebody was getting rid of, a huge stack of them. So probably 200 manila envelopes I saved from the recycle landfill. This one is the reds and spray oxide as the background, and then stenciled on top with this design and then the tree. Envelope, I put a little tree on the back. Okay, so now that we got a bunch of the spray oxide information in the tree, was a stencil, but then I took a pen and outlined behind it, and I tried using a texture paste and a stencil to give the little dots. And this is embossing powder up here, and that was just the ink lid that I put down on the spray oxide part, and more of the Joan Baez shawl. I really like this butterfly. It's got a tree background, but I only used part of the stencil. It's a pretty big stencil. This one has embossing powder, and then gold, what is it called? Gold flakes, or silver. Silver, I can't remember the name of it now. Silver flakes of some type. This was a tissue that I cleaned off the leaf that I was gel printing, and it left a nice imprint, so I saved it. And here I made a little snowman out of collaged dictionary pages, a very old dictionary, and put texture paste here for snow, and it also has the embossing powder. And that's just scraps cleaning off a stencil. Oh, it's too early in the morning to try to think. Stencils. And then I stamped snowflakes on it in red and splattered it with some white, which it might have been in the background when I was splattering, so I caught it on there. And that's the envelope. And it's just a greeting card in general. So I hand drew. This is spray oxide, and it's 2 different colors here. Pull over a couple of these. They have interesting names, but I haven't memorized the names yet. Tea-dye, lumberjack plaid, and it's a red. And you have to shake them up all the time to get them mixed. And this one is salty ocean. I bought that lumberjack red, lumberjack plaid for Christmas, and I'm like, I don't know how to use the red, but I've played around with it. So there's a stencil in the background to make it look like poinsettias, and then splattered with the white paint. And so the background is the lumberjack and some gold glitter spray. Let me see what that is. It's not really glitter. It does not rub off. Distressed mica spray. And this one's in pewter. Brushed pewter. And then I use the stencil and the ink pads on top of that. And there's a stencil with Christmas written there. And this envelope I really decorated a bunch and then put a pine cone on the outside. This one had the golden background and with the spray oxide, and that's probably the pewter. And then I used a stencil for the brick, and I used a couple different color ink pads for the brick to give it, and the rocks is all on one stencil. And then drew a lantern on it, filled it with the modeling paste or texture paste for snow, stenciled on the tree and outlined it in black ink, and then I did the embossing powder in tinsel, lime tinsel, and then speckled it with some snow too. And this is a manila folder. I left the ridges and everything there. I kind of like the look of the ridges. And on the inside it had a collage of scrap papers of a tree. And there might have been some writing across here, so I added more collage there. And a little bit of green on the background of the envelope. Now this one's not necessarily a Christmas card, but I just like doing any kind of card. So it was the brown spray oxide, and the oxide makes it turn a couple different colors. And then I drew up flowers on the front of it and stamped with a rubber stamp the background with this script stamp. And then I put some vellum paper here that's been sprayed and made a little envelope where then you can write messages on the inside and a couple tags. I have a little tag cutter that you cut different size tags out. Another one. Yeah, I think this was butcher's wrap. Actually, this is what another artist gave me, scrap papers that she didn't know what to do with and was going to throw away. And I just like the textures of it. Little tags. And a Zentangle drawing. And this tag, you can write on the back of it. Just a collage of papers. Yeah, I had 22 cards, so it takes a little bit to get through them. Yeah, all the envelopes I covered on the inside. This one I used my Rusty Hinge ink pad to go around the outside edges. This again was left with paint on tape on here to leave the watercolor paper white, and then spray oxide, pulled the tape off, and then did the splatters and a star stamp. Some coloring paper here, color book paper. Another manila folder. So I don't glue these tissues down all the way, so it leaves it a nice looseness. I just glue the corners of them. Here I used a different liner for the inside, and I think that's a roll of wallpaper from Holly Brown's house out there. Bless her heart. Gone over the rainbow this past year. And this is spray oxide again, leaving the tape on here to leave a blank space. And I tore the edge of the tape so it would give it that rough edge, and then did the drawings on it, and a rubber stamp. And I've got watercolor that has metallic in it also. Yeah, these are stamps. I just added letters and numbers to it. And this is the, I think it's like a butcher wax or like a wax paper. And it has a grid mark drawn on it that Marcia Heatwell was using in artwork somehow. And she had a roll of it that she was going to toss. Saved it from the landfill also. A lot of art supplies come from waste like that. Another drawing I did. So the spray oxide background, and then the rubber stamps, and then the hand drawing and watercolor. And that's another type of paper here. I just sprayed coffee on. And a different type of liner on this. Christmas wrap. I think this is one of my favorites. I love this moth. And I was able to put several colors on the rubber stamp, which is these clear rubber stamps. And then you take a piece of acrylic block, which I had my contractor saw these. It was a window scraps that was left over from the greenhouse. And then you put them on the acrylic block and use it to use the stamp. When you turn it over, you can see exactly where you want to place it. So these are interesting type of stamps. Here's one that has the stamp on it. And it sticks on. You got to put it back in the container. So you put your ink pad on this side and then turn it over and stamp. And it actually goes in this package, but I'm probably going to be using it again. So the spray oxide is the background color, and I added a line of the spray oxide here and then put water on it for it to spread. Each one of these colors turns at least one or two different other shades when you put it on. So that's an unpredictable of how it looks when it's done. And then I use the brush ink pad around the edges in probably frayed burlap. And then just hand drew this tree and watercolored with some mica paint. And also the rubber stamp with the words. And the inside I made a pocket and added some tags. Oh, that's joy to the world. So you can write your little messages on these tags. And the envelope, again, I used old Christmas wrap and a stamp. That's my collection of cards. I did 2 long ones. A lot of these envelopes are recycled. Sometimes you go to the thrift store and they have stacks of envelopes that people were saving for no reason, but I have reasons for them. So this is lined paper on the inside, and I put some cutout scraps on the outside. And this was, again, spray oxide, and I ripped up the watercolor paper and then did a hand drawing on it. This one has tissue and a doily, paper doily. And then this one has a lot of collage on it. It's a really busy card. And it is cardstock. Yeah. So I did a picture, spray oxide background, sewed the doily on and the card that I worked on. And then on the inside I added collage And this was an experiment. I wanted the card to have this round area with the image on the inside, but it just looks like a lot of collage going on. Add a little tag, and that was on something recycled. And a little rubber stamp and some more spray oxide. I think this was a manila folder. That's my Christmas card collection. I've been working on another journal for the December challenge that I'll be participating in online. And so I've made the journal. We're going to be doing a bunch of ephemera, I think. So I've got my little journal together with a lot of pockets so I can put the stuff in here. And there'll be 20 images that we do, or 20 challenges. And then this will turn into my new nature journal, because my nature journal is full. So I have a lot of pockets, and this is a brown bag and a used envelope. And I covered the envelope with paper I got from the thrift store and brown bag and stencil. I just left the handle on there. And this is faux rice paper. Here I took time and wove the fancy fabric into this tag. And some pockets. Yeah, the back of this one's pretty. This is rice paper, and it's several layers. And I use decorative napkins, dinner napkins, and separate the layers of them. But this is a sample of using these tissue papers that I dab on and use for messes, to clean up my messes, instead of just wiping it off with a cloth or washing it down the sink on the stencils or the ink pads. I use the tissue to clean off. So all this background mess is part of that tissue. Then I stenciled on it, on that tissue, and used it in this layer. There's 3 layers of tissue here. Well, not 3, 2 layers of tissue and the dinner napkins. So there's different styles of dinner napkins. Like this one here has a lot of ferns on it, and I cut all the ferns apart. This one was a bee napkin with beehives and bees and a garden. But this one was all ferns. And then make these nice sturdy papers using all that tissue. And then I stamped, this fern is stamped on there, and the word is stamped on it. So it gives you this really nice, heavy paper that you can use as decorative parts on your journal. So all these are going to be sewn together as signatures, and there'll be probably about 150 pages in this book. And I might add more edges to the lace or something to the edges, and once it gets finished off, I'll do a flip through of this one. Alrighty, that's it for the morning.